let me start with just a couple of little things. So here I am. Those of you who haven't seen me in a few years, I'm in the back row on the left. I no longer have any problem with my arm. That was a little dislocated thing from doing too much work. I'm going to just start by kind of discussing the itinerary. I'll be flashing through a few pictures here. I'm just going to go back and disengage my auto change so that it doesn't advance ahead of me. So let me just do a little technical things here just to make sure that this goes the way I want it. And that'll make it easier for everybody. Okay, I'm going to use timing, and we are not going to do that. Okay. Okay. So, beginning of our trip, Rome. Obviously, this trip is broken up into two major sections. Our time in Rome, which is obviously Rome is, known to everybody for being kind of the strength, the strength of Italy. Certainly history, but also government. It's a very, very important part of the country. Many things flow in and out of Rome, and there's an incredible amount of history in Rome. So we'll be flying into Rome on British Air. We will be passing through London Heathrow out of Newark. We will be flying out of Newark around 6 p.m. and we'll be doing a changeover in London Heathrow and then flying into Rome Fiumicino Airport. We'll be taking a quick bus ride from the airport to our accommodations in Rome, which will be Le Meridian Visconti, which is actually quite close to a lot of significant restaurants and shopping. You can hear that scratching. That's Ruby already breaking her promise to me. Even at a ripe old age of 13, which is 90 in dog years, she is full of spunk. We are also pretty close to the Vatican, where we're staying. So we're staying in a really good location for the time that you all will have on your own to walk around when you have a dinner free, or when you have time in the afternoon after we've done some significant touring in the first half of the day. I try not to make every second of the trip structured because it depletes everybody, and you don't really absorb everything in the same way if you're just hop on constantly, one stop 5 minutes, next stop 5 minutes. I still try to make these trips, even though it's not Tuscany, a real immersion trip. So I've tried to structure this trip with the best of Rome, but also giving you ample time to have your moment to explore Rome in your own way. So on the first day, we arrive, and we'll be transferred by private bus to the hotel. And you're going to be really, really tired on the day of arrival. So on that first day, the only thing that we're going to do, and you'll have plenty of time to, we'll take our time getting in, but you'll have time on your own when you get to the hotel to basically rest. And we'll convene dinner that night together. We'll go out together to dinner. But you're really hungover from jet lag on the way in. So that day, when we arrive, it's going to be a time to kind of decompress. For those of you that want to get out and get around and want some help, I will have guide services available, but I'm going to leave that arrival day open because of the obvious issue of jet lag. So on Monday, we start first thing in the morning, and we do our first panoramic sightseeing tour of Rome. We'll be going through the city on a city tour. We'll see the Spanish Steps, Trevi Fountain, a lot of the Baroque, architecture of the area, the Pantheon, and then we'll be going to the Colosseum for another formal tour with a special guide who will take us through the amphitheater and some of the, great ruins of the Roman Empire, which is really breathtaking. I've been to Rome privately, and I have to say, the first time I stood in the Colosseum, I remember just feeling incredibly humbled because of the history and just America is such a young country that to go into the ruins of the Roman Empire, it's really something you never forget. It's unbelievable how well preserved it is. So that'll be a very full 2/3 of the day. And on that day, you will be able to have lunch on your own. There'll be a carved out time for lunch for you to enjoy. And we'll take you to and suggest many trattorias and osterias. Breakfast is provided that morning in the hotel, of course, a full European breakfast. And then dinner that night is your first night to be on your own. And I have sent some suggestions about some excellent, restaurants in Rome. One area that is really worth looking into, Trastevere is the old ancient Jewish section of Rome. Restaurants that are in Trastevere are really interesting. They're very intimate, and that neighborhood of Rome, I've dined in personally, and there are many exceptional restaurants in Rome, but many that are very worthy. But if you see on your list some that are referenced as being in the Trastevere neighborhood, I had a particularly good experience with various restaurants in that area in terms of just how inviting and how much of a neighborhood atmosphere in such a big city. I found it very charming and quaint and very welcoming. So just a little tip there that Trastevere is an interesting place to try to hit some dining destinations. So that's our first kind of full day, and then we overnight at the Le Méridien. And again, that's a dinner on your own night. And then let's go to the next. So these are just some shots of the amphitheater and the ruins. And it really looks just like that. And even in a photograph, it's impressive. Okay. So these are some shots from our next day, which will be our private Vatican tour. We're going to do a skip the line private tour where we won't have to wait on any big tourist lines. We'll be meeting first thing in the morning, and we'll take a private coach to the Vatican area, which isn't really that far away from where we're staying. And we will go through the Vatican museums, which includes the Sistine Chapel, and all of the different art collections and papal collections. There are obviously great masterpieces by Michelangelo, The Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel. And then you can tour St. Peter's Basilica, where there are innumerable art treasures of basically some of the most important art treasures of the Roman Catholic Church. Obviously, Michelangelo's Pietà will be found at this destination. No joke, the email that I sent a few weeks ago about proper attire for churches, that is a really strict rule, especially in Rome. Less so in Florence, but in Rome, they really will not let you in shorts or sleeveless tops. So take heed to that kind of humorous warning about what's appropriate to wear in the churches in Rome. So we'll be skipping the waiting line, and that's a pretty full day covering the Vatican area. You'll have the afternoon at your leisure, and we will meet that night together for a final dinner in Rome, where we'll be enjoying Roman cuisine, which is very specific, very different from, for those of you who've been to Tuscany, very different from the more southern reaches of Italy, and including the Amalfi Coast. Roman cuisine, some of the real specialties of Roman cuisine are certainly artichokes, truffled pastas. They have a very specific cuisine unto themselves, which I think you're going to really enjoy. and which they're very proud of in any restaurant you go into. There's a real Roman-esque cuisine that you will very quickly identify in your dining experiences in Rome. So we'll have our last night at Le Méridien, and then we'll get up the next day and basically make our first big move towards the Amalfi Coast. So thus concludes that first half of the trip. Now, I have also been to the Amalfi Coast. I'm not a world traveler, but I have happened to have taken a trip there. Certainly before I decided to run this trip, I vetted this trip pretty significantly. I found Rome to be really breathtaking and really powerful and very, very different from my experience in in Florence. It's a very different type of city, very different art, a very different sense of Italy's history. And then I toured from Rome, and this was, like a year and a half ago, to the Amalfi Coast, which is entirely different, which is what's so exciting about this trip to me, is that we're really covering a great swath of some very important stretches of Italy. And this really is what the Amalfi Coast looks like. It's unbelievably blue water, a lot of kind of built-in, the hills, the hillsides, these ancient cities. There really are full lemon trees everywhere, thus the limoncello being so important in this region. So on our way to the Amalfi Coast, to our base in Sorrento, we will be stopping at Pompeii, which is, everything you've heard it to be. It's remarkable. It's an excavated example of, basically the preserved ancient ruins of Mount Vesuvius, overtaking and very unexpectedly overtaking the ancient city of Pompeii. It's unbelievable what ruins they have there that are so intact. It's really extraordinary. So when we get there, we're going to be met by a special guide of Pompeii who will spend 2 hours there really going through everything. And it's really, it's extremely interesting. On that day, really make sure that you wear really comfortable clothes. Pompeii is an excavated area, so there's a lot of, walking on dirt roads, and you just don't want to be in anything uncomfortable. Be entirely comfortable. Dress in light layers so that if it's hot that day, you can, remove a sweater, tie it around your waist. But be comfortable, especially on our travel day. This is a day where you'll have lunch on your own, and we'll bring you to the right places for that. You'll have breakfast at the hotel before we leave. And then we'll make our trip to Pompeii, which is just outside of Naples. Pompeii is about maybe an hour and a half from Sorrento. Not much more than that. So this will be a full day. So we'll have a significant stop at Pompeii. We'll give you ample time to have lunch, and then we'll travel on to our base in Sorrento, which is the Hilton Sorrento, which is a very modern hotel. It's a resort hotel with a lot of pools, and it's very, very pretty. I especially picked these hotels because in an area like this, it can get quite hot, even in May, even though it's usually in the 70s. And a lot of hotels in Italy don't have air conditioning or don't have great air conditioning. So I chose an American brand, even though it's owned by Italians and run by Italians, because I like the idea of having the option of bigger beds, newer amenities, and access to good, comfortable air conditioning, especially while we're in the South like this. So on this day, after we've concluded our trip and our stop in Pompeii and our settling in Sorrento, this will be a night where we'll have dinner together in Sorrento, and we'll basically check in, have some time for everybody to kind of decompress and settle into their new surroundings. You'll be able to walk around Sorrento if you like, if you're not tired from the trip. And then we'll meet for dinner at around 7 o'clock and walk to our destination for dinner. So that's our first day in Sorrento. And these are actually some shots from the area. I just thought this was a funny quote from Al Gore, of all people. I think it's true that airplane travel is nature's way of making you look like your passport photo. At least I know it makes me look like my passport photo. So our second day is really exciting. This is where, so many people base themselves in Sorrento. Sorrento is a beautiful, quaint city, but it's a great blasting off point for Capri and the other Amalfi Coast destinations. So we'll meet in the morning, and we'll meet our guide for the day, and we'll transfer to some vans where we'll get down to the jet foil, which is the boat that will take us on our day excursion to the island of Capri. And I know that Americans call it Capri, but actually you'll find that Italians and natives refer to it as Capri. So once we arrive there, it'll be about a 20-minute ride, and then we'll go. There are two levels of Capri. One is the village of Ana Capri, which is at the very top of the hill in Solaro, and then Capri Center. And they all have different features. We will, basically enjoy Capri. There's some incredible shopping in Capri, gardens, and amazing sights to those really cerulean blue waters. This is where you'll be able to have lunch on your own, and then we'll do a transfer at the end of the day back to the Sorrento Pier, where we'll take the hydrofoil back and then to our hotel. On this evening, you'll have the evening to enjoy dinner on your own in Sorrento. There are many, many restaurants in Sorrento. It's a great dining community. And then we'll have our night at the Hilton. And then we'll look to our next day. And this really is as beautiful as this area is. It's why everybody wants to go to the Amalfi Coast, because it looks just like this. There's no way to enhance it. It already looks beautiful. So the next day, we'll have a full day on the Amalfi Coast, but by private tour bus. And the reason why is that this is the area where you don't have to get to these towns by boat, but Capri you really do. So on this day, we're gonna take the full day tour along what are called the three pearls of the Amalfi Coast: Positano, Amalfi, and Ravello. I'm not going to read my long-winded explanation here, but these are some of the most important stops on the Amalfi Coast. They all have a different flavor. They all have different items that they're known for. They are not all identical towns. They're very different from one another, and they all have great histories. So the first area is Amalfi. These are the different, what they call the four maritime republics: Amalfi, Ravello, and then the other areas that are associated as sister cities like Venice and Genoa and Pisa. And they were all wealthy, ruling destinations in ancient times. So this is where all the power was in the coast. They all have different features. We'll be going to different museums, different lemon producers. We'll be going through different shops to show you all the different local goods. These are areas where you want to purchase things like limoncello. This is the area that it's known for, and there are a lot of items that are featured in these towns. And we'll go to Ravello, which is I like this quote that Goethe said, that Amalfitan people, the day they die, that it's nothing different from their life as they always lived, because they've lived in paradise their whole life, because it's such a beautiful area. This is another area we'll be walking around. There's a heavy interest in ceramics in this area, a lot of artisans that create all different unique pieces. There are a lot of art shops in this area. And then our last stop is the incredibly picturesque town of Positano. Positano is really kind of carved into kind of a wall overlooking the water. It's a small village of fishermen. It's considered that it's a jewel, almost like set like a diamond in the coastal wall. So this is a very full day. And on this day, you'll be able to have dinner on your own again when we get back to Sorrento, and we'll, you know, the Hilton has incredible number of pools and waterside views. This is a hotel where it would not be a letdown if you decided to stay in the hotel for the night, and there are a number of different places to eat even in the Hilton itself. But as I said, they're all Italian owned. This is not an American, you know, this isn't necessarily, it's an American brand, but it's Italian owned. So that, this is just another little, so our final day in Sorrento is a day where you can really be dedicated to exploring Sorrento itself, which is a noteworthy place to explore. I'm trying to think of what it's similar to in terms of where we've been in Tuscany, but I have to tell you, I can't think of something that's exactly like it. It's not hilly, but they're nice, narrow streets with a lot of shops and a lot of restaurants. It's a very, very welcoming city. There's a lot to do there, and you can spend more than a full day wandering around Sorrento and being quite happy. So this is a final day where you have carte blanche to do what you want. And there are a lot of opportunities. If you're interested in exploring options of other kinds of touring on your own, like if you wanted to do any other type of boat ride, you can do that right from the Sorrento Pier on your own. And we would be able to help you with our guide, hook you up with that. But there are many, many things that you can do on your final day. But we will meet in the final evening to have a final dinner together in Sorrento, a final Amalfi Coast dinner before we say goodbye, which will be the very next day. On the day that we depart, we will be leaving out of the Naples airport, which is a smaller, not a tiny airport, but a smaller airport, more an airport maybe the size of the Florence airport. We're flying out of there because there's no reason to travel so far away to get back to where we started from. So flying out of Naples, and we'll fly again through Great Britain, I believe through Gatwick on the way back, and then we land at JFK. So before I open it up to Q&A, I just want to go over a couple of things. So I sent the announcement out about our pre-trip luncheon. I know that some people can't make it because they're on vacations in Florida, but I just wanted to reiterate that the pre-trip luncheon will be at noon on April 7th at Osteria Danny in Saratoga Springs, New York. The people on the right of the screen are Danny and Patty Petrosino. They're a wonderful couple that owns this restaurant. Danny is an incredible chef. These are incredibly warm people. I'm very excited to be going there, and they've become good friends of mine, and I learn something from them every day, and their restaurant is like a family. It's small. The people that work for them have worked for them forever through various restaurants. Danny and Patty are high school sweethearts. They've been married for almost 47 years, even though they don't look that like they would possibly have had that long, but they have. So I'm really looking forward to that. And for those of you that can't make it up to Osteria Danny Sunday. You definitely will not regret it. I was just there. My brother was coming through town for a visit a few days ago, and I brought him up there, and he lives in Southern Virginia, and he just said, well, Nettie, I now know what my favorite restaurant is in New York State the next time I come. So it was really, really wonderful. I also want to tell you a little bit about I bought into a travel app last year for my Tuscany trip. I tested it out on my October trip to Tuscany, and I really liked it, and people liked it. So I've continued to utilize this service. And I'm going to be sending an email to everybody at the end of next week that gives you a link on where you can download this app. But the company is called Travify, and I'm still going to have a printed program like I always do. But this is just a secondary feature for people that like to use smartphones, where I'm going to load up a lot of information that you can use right from your phone. Like, for instance, I'll be loading up a bunch of restaurant information. And the idea is that if you want to go to a particular restaurant, you can click on it and get walking directions right from your phone. And basically, it's also a good way that if something changes and I want to reach everybody quickly, I'll be able to send you messages through this program. But it's not essential. If you're not interested in apps, you don't have to use this. But I just want you to know that I'm going to have this as an additional feature. I tried it out last October. I liked it. And I've bought into this system through the company, and I feel like it's been a good value. It's free for you to use. It's free for you to download the app. I'm going to just show you a little bit of what this looks like in a moment. But first, I just want to go through a couple of other things. There's another email that will be coming to you about the shuttle to the airport and parking. So you guys know that we're not parking, obviously, at Cafe Capriccio anymore. I actually we didn't depart from there in October either. It's a difficult area to leave a car, and I'm not affiliated with the cafe anymore. But also, I think parking in public lots is really not the safest anyway. So I tried out last October after vetting a lot of different lots and public spaces. I found that the parking situation at the Amtrak station, in Albany Rensselaer Amtrak station, was the best option because the lot is secured. It is monitored 24/7 by cameras, and you have to have a gate to get inside. And the cost is not very high, and it was very hospitable for our trip, and it really worked out well. So I'm continuing that tradition. So I'll be sending you, what you're looking at is a copy of the email that's coming to you. And it basically just talks about where the lot is. There'll be a lot of photographs in the email to show you where to park in the lot, where we're going to meet in the lot, what the costs are. There'll be a link in the email to show you how to get there from your home. And I'll be giving you step-by-step instructions on exactly how to get there, where to park, what it'll cost, where we'll meet in the parking area, where the bus will be, what the bus looks like. Everything soup to nuts. I will be sending you full information on that. So I'd like to show you the app just quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I really feel that what's important is that we have ample time for Q&A, and I know everybody's busy, and it's not easy to find the time on Sunday to put into this. So I think what I'm going to do is the app is really self-explanatory. I was going to show you a little bit about it, but honestly, I think it's more important to open this up to questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute everybody's mic. So just be aware, if it gets too loud, I'll unmute people as we have questions. So I'm going to try unmuting everybody first to just give everybody a chance to talk. So, I think what I'm going to do, because we are getting some feedback, is I'd like everybody on your dashboard, there is an opportunity for you to raise your hand. All you have to do is click on the little hand. And so Jill just raised her hand. I'm going to unmute you guys just so that we don't, apparently we're picking up a lot of feedback from different microphones. So Jill, how are you? It's Jeanette.
I'm good. How are you, Jeanette?
I'm great.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you through Gary.
Yeah,
can you?
Hi, Gary. Can you hear me?
I can.
It works better. So much the other doesn't work.
I think we're just picking up a double thing. So what question can I
How many people are in our group, and are we going to get the info on the fellow travelers like we did before?
Yes, we are. Fellow travelers, there were a lot of people who felt very compelled to send new pictures, and I still was getting some even on Friday. So I've got the directory done. And I'm planning on sending that out on Tuesday because I have a couple of other emails dropping on Monday, but it's coming on Tuesday. It'll come electronically. It'll have photographs, names, and towns that people are from. We have a full group of 30, and that's including our 2 staff members. And you know, it's a full trip. Will be it's about the size that typical size that I've been running in the past couple of years with our Tuscany trip. But I cut it off at that size just because you really get unwieldy once you get bigger than that. So we have a lot of other people interested in the trip, but I really couldn't. I never really advertised this publicly. I took just people who had, for the most part, traveled with me before, or friends of people that had traveled with me before. So that's the size of this group, and the directory will be coming to you on Tuesday via an email that where you can download it. And then when you come to get on the bus, I will have a printed program with that same directory, but in a smaller format in the back pages of the program booklet, so that you have a little cheat sheet to remember everybody by face and name.
Perfect. I saw that it was a full-size bus and I got nervous. I'm glad it's clear.
No, I get a full-size bus. I have another trip in October where I've limited it to 18 people, and I'm going to use the same size bus. You know why? Because they're the most comfortable. I've had smaller buses, and you know what? The shock throw is so bad that I found that it's just as beneficial and financially pretty close. It's only a few $100s more. If you get a full-size bus, you're not jostled as much. So I've been getting those buses from Wade because they're just more comfortable and the bathrooms are more reliable, and that's why I use the big bus. It's not because we have 57 people on the trip.
Terrific. I can't wait to see it again. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys again. Last time I saw Gary and Jill, we had a renewal of vows ceremony in Tuscany, and I'll never forget it. It was a beautiful pink sky night, and it was really something that I haven't forgotten.
It was
I look forward to seeing you guys. So I'm going to unmute somebody else who has their hand up, and I'm going to go to Jim Shaver. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Jeanette?
I'm
Hey,
good, thank
just had,
you. What can I answer?
I had 2 quick questions. My recollection of our last trip to Tuscany was that in Britain, we had to retrieve our bags and go through security again as we changed planes. Is that going to happen this time, do you think?
No, we will not have to retrieve our bags. Our bags will be shifted from one plane to the next automatically because we'll be checked through in Newark.
Perfect.
So
Very
luggage will be checked through. So no, I mean, one thing I will say, and it's a very good question to bring up. You know, I've been using British Air pretty exclusively for the past, I guess the past 4 years now, or maybe even more. Why have I been doing that? British Air is even a little bit more expensive, but the reason I use them is they seem to have the most comfortable flights, the best amenities. They have good food. They have very reliable flights. Very rarely do we get delays unless it's something that can't be avoided. The downside to that is that going through Heathrow, Heathrow is a very high security airport, probably one of the most high security airports, in overseas. But it's still worth it. I find that we have enough time between flights, but we will be guiding you when we get off the plane to make the transfer. There will be myself and my partner, Katie Homan. We each take different wings of the group, and we walk everybody between one flight to the next. Nobody is left to their own devices. If they want to, you can go ahead and go to the next gate. But we provide gate-to-gate service as a staff because it is a little overwhelming, and it can be sometimes labyrinthian. I don't know which, they don't assign the next gate yet, but I've done this passageway a number of times, and you just have to stay on your toes, but it's not it's not terribly stressful. I have found the airport transfers when you have to fly through Rome or through France and through de Gaulle to be much harder. So I've stuck with British Air. But no, we will not have to claim our luggage. We will have to pass through a number of security checkpoints. That's just the way Heathrow is. But we've never missed a flight, so I'm not concerned about that. But you'll have a lot of escort service between the two gates. But that's a very good question. Okay, anything else, Ken?
Yeah, just a quick question. It may have been in some other information already sent out to us, but approximately what time do we get back to the Amtrak lot on our return?
No, that's a great question, and no, it hasn't been in a previous email, but it will be in the email that you get about the lot and the parking, which will drop on Monday at, I think, 9:30 a.m. is when I scheduled it. But it's a great question, and I am guessing that we're going to get back no later than 8:30. We land at around 4:30. We've got to get through customs. We will make a stop on the way so people can get something to eat and stretch their legs. That would be the latest we get back, and we're also leaving from JFK, so there's a little bit more traffic, but we're going in the less traffic direction at least. There's a lot of traffic coming into the city usually at that time, but not as much going out. So my estimate, and this is a generous estimate, is that we'll get back around between 8 or 8:30 in the evening on the 19th.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm going to move on to Deb Shea. Let me just unmute you. Hi, Deb.
Hi there. It looks like it keeps automatically raising our hand, and I have for us. It's like there's a little gremlin in my computer, so we really don't have a question. We've been trying to lower our.
Okay. Well, don't worry about it. But it's great to hear your voice, and I'm looking forward to traveling with you this time. And
we're excited.
Anything that you can think of?
No, I think we're good. We appreciate all the information.
All right, awesome. I will duly ignore your hand.
Okay. It's
all right. All right. Let's see. I just want to see if I just have to expand my view here so that I can see everybody's raised hand. Looks like Jill. Hi, Jill. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Let me just double check here. Gary, I just keep getting feedback. Did you guys have a question, or is the gremlin raising your hand?
I had a question. I'm trying to get Jill to turn off her machine, but she just doesn't follow directions. A couple of quick questions. What time are we arriving in Rome local time?
Okay, I can tell you that. Let me just look at my paperwork here. So we land in Rome at noon. So by the time we get to the hotel with collecting our luggage, getting on the bus, doing the transfer, we'll probably get to the hotel Le Méridien at about 2 p.m. and that'll give you guys time. I may even because we land at noon. If people want to, some of the autostradas have great places to pick up very good sandwiches. So we may make a stop before we get to the hotel just to give people a chance to get a snack. But around 2 o'clock, 2:30, somewhere around that time. But we land at noon.
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay.
Are we going to see Carolina?
No, I have to tell you, I talk to Carolina about once a week. We're close friends.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Carolina's son, Andrea, was diagnosed a few years ago with schizophrenia, and it has pretty much consumed Carolina's life right now. She is not able to be running any groups where she has to be overnight anywhere because she is the caretaker of Andrea, Carolina has decided to keep, not institutionalized, but she keeps Andrea at home with her. So it's changed Carolina's ability to be a trip leader. She only does touring now for a couple of hours at a time because of Andrea. So she's been in a very, very difficult situation, but I have very good guides working on our trip. I haven't had Carolina running a trip for me, unfortunately, for a couple of years because this has been a very, very difficult, crisis within her family life. So her career has had to change to adapt to Andrea's needs. So it's been difficult for her, but unfortunately, she's not even able to do the full trips in Tuscany anymore because she can't be away from home overnight.
Oh, well, obviously so sad for us to hear, but please pass on our love and prayers. It's,
I will.
Yep, we think of her fondly often.
I understand, and I understand the disappointment of not having her. I stopped asking because I know that it's painful for her because she's very dedicated to her career, but obviously she's very dedicated to her son, who's he's like a 30-year-old. I know Andrea, and it's been a very difficult transition into the life that she has to do now with him.
It's a
but
disease. Yeah.
She's somebody that, if you get back to the Tuscany area, she's a person that would love to see past travelers, even if it was just to see her for an hour or two in Florence. She always asked about people that, and I know she would remember the wedding in particular.
Yeah, that was such a fun day. Such a wonderful time. I don't know if you can speak to this. I'm just trying to remember. We haven't been to Europe a lot, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to decide how many euros to get. That kind of thing. We know we can use credit cards a lot, but can you speak to that a little bit? What makes sense? Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So,
it's all in an email you just sent.
Yeah, well, I just sent it, but you guys, it literally was only like an hour or so ago, so I'm sure you've not even had time to see it, but it's a very good question. It outlines everything you need to know about euros, where you can get them, how you interact. I always suggest that people arrive in Italy with at least 300 euros cash. Yes, you will have access to ATM machines very easily on this particular trip. You're not staying in any isolated areas. Like being at a vineyard, but it's still good to have Euro cash on you. The stuff that you'll have to need euros for are just tipping when you go out to eat, tipping your housekeeping on the day that you leave, and things like that. Porters, if you need someone to carry your luggage for you, porters, things like that. But 300 euros per person is plenty, and then you'll have access certainly in Rome and Sorrento to ATM machines, but always bring a backup. We have had people sometimes have their cards get eaten. It doesn't happen often, but it's good to always have a backup. The only credit cards that are not welcome in Italy are American Express cards. Some places take them, but a lot of places don't because they charge very high finance fees for the small artisans. So a lot of them only take Visa and MasterCard. So I've sent a very detailed email about money, about how to get money in advance, how to handle money while you're traveling. Both hotels will have a safe in everybody's room where you can lock up both cash, cards that you're not using that particular day, passport, things like that.
Great. Thank you so much. We're so looking forward to seeing you.
Oh, likewise. Okay, I'm going to just see if I got any more hands up here. Just scroll down. And it looks like I do not have any more hands up. So I want to thank everybody for taking some time out of your Sunday to participate in this webinar. I am going to be sending you many more annoying emails to cover a lot of ground. I've been sending these only a couple of months out now because I found that when I was diligently sending them very months in advance, that it was hard for people to remember some of the information. So I found that people find it more useful getting it closer to the date. Please remember that you can always call me on my cell phone, 518-339-2660, anytime you have a question. If I don't pick up, I will call you back soon after. The only other thing I want to tell you, for those of you that are on the line, is I am a dialysis patient now. I'm a hemodialysis patient. I have been very comfortably traveling, but I do get treatment while I'm traveling for a few days out of my trip. I have another person that I work with, Katie Holman, who is an incredible person. She's about 31 years old. She is actually a lobbyist in Albany, but she is a friend of mine. She used to be the legislative director at my office. She's from Long Island originally, a Siena graduate. I think her master's is from Rockefeller. She's very fun. She loves wine. She loves to laugh. And there'll be plenty of coverage for the few mornings where I'll be going for a few hours for treatment, both in Sorrento and in Rome. I'll be a couple of mornings where I won't be with the group, but I will catch up with the group. But I just want you to be aware of it. I don't hide the fact. I'm very proud that I found a way to live a full life and be in dialysis, and it's working well for me. So I not only have this trip, but I have 3 other trips this year. So I figured it out. And, you know, it's very important as I wait for my transplant, it's very important to me to live a full life, and I am living a full life. So I hope that everybody is okay with that. I've already done a trip on dialysis very successfully as recently as October, and I'm very comfortable with this. And I've designed the trips with plenty of guides and other coverage so that for those few hours, I do this very early in the morning before most people are even awake. So a lot of it is people don't even notice, but I'm just very open about it. So that's just one little small detail that I just didn't want to spring on you on the bus. So thank you so much for participating in this. Look for my emails. I've recorded this so that I'm going to post it and send an email of it tomorrow. So if anybody can't remember something that was covered tonight and you want to go back and hear me spiel again in a recording, I'm going to be sending that to you. So thank you so much, everybody. I can't wait to go on this trip. I'm really excited about it. It's especially, you know, personal to me that this trip is 90% former people that I've traveled with, and to be traveling with a handful of friends of former travelers is also really fun. You guys are a collection of very fun, easygoing people, and this is going to be an exceptional journey. So I'm really looking forward to traveling, and we'll be in touch. And for most of you, I will see you on April 7th live and in person to enjoy a wonderful meal by Chef Danny Petrosino. Thanks again.